Arizona is one of 28 states with so-called right-to-work laws that prohibit workers from getting fired because they refuse to join a union. Voters enshrined those regulations in Arizona's Constitution back in 1946. Now, Robert Nichols says it's time to change that and make it easier to form labor unions that he says will lead to better pay and benefits for employees. Nichols is the leader of Arizona Works Together, which now faces the monumental task of gathering nearly 400,000 signatures by next summer to qualify for the 2024 ballot. Even if they succeed in placing this measure on that ballot, they'll likely face fierce opposition from the business community that will invest big money to defeat the campaign.
At this point, we are a grassroots coalition built up of unions, local activist groups, and organizations dedicated to securing fair laws for fair pay in Arizona. Right now, we have United Auto Workers Region 6, we have the United Campus Workers of Arizona, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 640, who is going to be hosting our upcoming Canvas event this Sunday, or on Sunday the 29th. And we will be also working with a number of legislators who are fighting to improve our chances at getting this passed in the long run.
Opponents of repealing the state's right to work status says there's nothing that prohibits labor unions, and they believe that the current law gives workers and employees a choice of working for a union or not. And there are other efforts across the country to repeal these kinds of laws. For example, state leaders in Michigan recently repealed their right to work status earlier this year. However, Arizona will need the approval of voters because it's protected in the state constitution. In the newsroom, Dennis Welch, Arizona's Family.